Marcus Williams had been reviewing luxury hotels, resorts and travel experiences for Luxury Travel Digest for 9 years. At 34, he was the publication's senior critic, responsible for evaluating high-end accommodations across North America. His reviews reached over 3 million readers monthly through the magazine's print edition, website, and influential social media presence. Marcus's reviews could make or break luxury properties. A favorable Williams review meant increased bookings and prestige. A negative review could devastate a hotel's reputation and revenue. He was known for meticulous attention to detail, fair assessment, and elegant writing that made readers feel they'd experienced the property themselves. He always traveled anonymously when conducting reviews. He booked reservations under a pseudonym, used a personal credit card not linked to Luxury Travel Digest, and never identified himself as a travel journalist until after checkout. This allowed him to experience properties as regular guests did, not receive the special treatment hotels provided when they knew a critic was present. Marcus had made a reservation at the Grand Meridian Hotel in Charleston, South Carolina, for a 3-night stay. The Grand Meridian was a historic luxury property in Charleston's downtown historic district, occupying a restored antebellum mansion with modern amenities. The hotel advertised itself as the pinnacle of Southern hospitality and elegant accommodations, with rooms starting at $450 per night. Marcus had booked a deluxe suite for $975 per night, prepaid through the hotel's website 2 weeks earlier. He'd received confirmation emails with reservation number, guaranteed late arrival, and welcome message from the hotel manager expressing anticipation of his visit. He arrived at the Grand Meridian at 7:45 p.m. on a Thursday evening after a delayed flight. He was dressed comfortably for travel, dark jeans, a button-down shirt, and casual leather jacket. He carried a rolling suitcase and laptop bag. To any observer, he looked like a professional traveler, which he was. The Grand Meridian's exterior was impressive, a beautifully restored historic building with elegant lighting, manicured gardens, and a grand entrance with columns and ornate ironwork. Marcus walked through the entrance into a lobby that matched the property's luxury positioning: marble floors, crystal chandeliers, antique furnishings, and fresh flower arrangements. Several guests occupied the lobby's seating areas, all appearing to be affluent white tourists or business travelers. Marcus approached the front desk where a woman in her late 40s stood reviewing paperwork. Her name badge identified her as Catherine Reed, front desk manager. "Good evening. I have a reservation under the name Williams, checking in for 3 nights. Catherine looked up from her paperwork. Her expression shifted subtly from professional neutrality to skepticism as she took in Marcus's appearance. "Williams, let me check our system." She turned to her computer and typed slowly, her body language suggesting she expected to find problems. After an unnecessarily long search, Catherine looked back at Marcus. "I'm not showing a reservation under Williams for tonight." Marcus pulled out his phone and opened his confirmation email. "I booked 2 weeks ago. Here's my confirmation number." Catherine glanced at his phone without taking it or examining the confirmation carefully. "Confirmation numbers don't guarantee reservations are properly processed. Let me check what rooms we have available." "I don't need you to check availability. I have a guaranteed reservation for a deluxe suite, prepaid in full." "Sir, I'm telling you I don't see your reservation in our system. Now, we may have rooms available, but they won't be at whatever rate you think you paid online." The dismissive tone and the implication that Marcus had somehow made an error or misunderstood the booking was both insulting and suspicious. "I paid $975 per night, prepaid for 3 nights, total $2,925. The charge posted to my credit card 2 weeks ago. I have the receipt." Marcus pulled up his credit card statement showing the charge from the Grand Meridian Hotel. Catherine barely looked at it. Online booking systems sometimes have glitches. Charges can appear but reservations don't actually process correctly. Then your hotel has a serious problem with its booking system that should have been corrected when I didn't receive confirmation. But I did receive confirmation, multiple emails from your property confirming my reservation, room type, and guaranteed late arrival. Catherine's expression hardened. "Sir, I'm the front desk manager. I'm telling you, we have no reservation for you. I can check if we have rooms available tonight, but I need to be clear that the Grand Meridian is a luxury property with rates that may be higher than you're expecting. The implication was clear and offensive. Catherine was suggesting Marcus couldn't afford the hotel and had somehow confused or fabricated his reservation. I'm aware of your rates. I specifically chose this property and paid your premium price for a deluxe suite. I'm not confused about what I booked or what I paid. Even if you did make an online booking, I'm not showing it in our current system. Online bookings sometimes get flagged for verification before they're confirmed as active reservations. Verification of what? My credit card was charged. That's verification of payment. Verification of guest suitability. The Grand Meridian maintains certain standards for our clientele. Marcus felt anger rising, but maintained his composure. He recognized what was happening. He'd heard stories from other black travelers about being denied hotel accommodations despite valid reservations, being told properties were fully booked when rooms were actually available, or being subjected to additional verification requirements not applied to white guests. Guest suitability, meaning what exactly? Catherine realized she'd said something she shouldn't have. I mean verification that the booking matches our inventory and that the guests' needs align with our available accommodations. My needs are simple. I need the deluxe suite I reserved and paid for. Your hotel accepted my money 2 weeks ago. You're obligated to provide the accommodations I purchased. Sir, I don't appreciate your tone. If you continue being aggressive, I'll have to ask you to leave the property. Asking for the room I paid for isn't aggressive. Refusing to honor a valid reservation is breach of contract. Another front desk employee, a younger white woman, approached Catherine and whispered something. Catherine shook her head dismissively, and the employee retreated. Catherine turned back to Marcus. Mr. Williams, I'm going to be direct. The Grand Meridian caters to a specific clientele who expect a certain atmosphere and experience. We have standards for our guests that ensure everyone's comfort and safety. Based on my assessment, I don't believe the Grand Meridian is the right fit for you. Not the right fit based on what assessment? You've assessed nothing except my appearance. I've assessed that you don't have a valid reservation in our system and that you're being confrontational about hotel policies. I became confrontational when you refused to honor my prepaid reservation, and you're right that you've assessed my appearance. You've decided that a young black man doesn't belong in your luxury hotel. Catherine's face flushed. Race has nothing to do with this. This is about reservation verification and hotel standards. If you continue making accusations, I will call security. Marcus made a decision. He pulled out his business card and placed it on the desk. The card identified him as Marcus Williams, Senior Travel Critic, Luxury Travel Digest. Before you call security, you should know who you're refusing service to. I'm a luxury travel journalist. I review properties for a publication with 3 million readers. I made this reservation specifically to review the Grand Meridian, and you've just refused me check-in, despite my having a valid prepaid reservation. Catherine picked up the card, her expression shifting from hostile to uncertain to alarmed. You're a travel critic, yes, and everything that's happened in the past 10 minutes will be documented in my review. Your refusal to honor my reservation, your suggestion that I couldn't afford your rates, your statement about guest suitability, and your explicit admission that you don't think I'm the right fit for the Grand Meridian. I didn't mean there's been a misunderstanding. Let me check the reservation system again. Now you want to check again, after refusing service and threatening to call security. Catherine turned to her computer with visible panic and began searching more carefully. Within 30 seconds, she found Marcus's reservation exactly as he'd described it. Deluxe suite, 3 nights, prepaid in full with guaranteed late arrival. Mr. Williams, I found your reservation. It was in the system all along. There was an error in how I searched initially. Your room is ready and I can check you in immediately. Convenient that you found it after seeing my business card. Strange that it didn't exist 5 minutes ago when I was just a black man. You could dismiss. That's not what happened. It was a genuine system error. Marcus had dealt with enough discrimination to recognize a pattern. Catherine's hostile treatment, her claims the reservation didn't exist, her suggestions he couldn't afford the hotel, and her statements about guest suitability all disappeared the moment she realized he had the power to damage her hotel's reputation. I'm not checking in. I don't stay at properties that discriminate against guests based on race. I'll be documenting this experience and sharing it with your corporate ownership, the Charleston Tourism Board, and my 3 million readers. Please, Mr. Williams, I apologize for any confusion. Let me get the general manager. I'm sure we can resolve this. There's nothing to resolve. You refused me service based on racial profiling. The fact that you're willing to provide service now that you know I'm a travel critic doesn't erase what you did. Marcus turned and walked out of the Grand Meridian Hotel, leaving Catherine Reed standing at the front desk holding his business card. Several guests in the lobby had watched the entire confrontation. At least 2 were recording on their phones. Marcus stood outside the hotel for a moment, processing what had happened. Then he pulled out his phone and began documenting everything in detailed notes while it was fresh in his memory. He recorded Catherine's exact statements, the timeline of events, and his observations about how she'd treated him versus how he'd seen her greet white guests who'd checked in before him. He also took photos of the hotel exterior, his confirmation emails, his credit card receipt showing the prepaid charge, and screenshots of his correspondence with the property. He documented everything he would need to write a comprehensive review. Then Marcus called his editor at Luxury Travel Digest. "Sarah, I've got a major story. The Grand Meridian in Charleston just refused me check-in based on racial profiling. I have documentation, witness, and this needs to run as soon as possible." Sarah Chen, the magazine's editor-in-chief, was shocked. "They refused you check-in, despite a paid reservation." Marcus explained the entire incident. Sarah listened carefully, asking clarifying questions and ensuring they had sufficient documentation. "Write the review tonight while it's fresh. I'll bump other content and run this as our lead story in next month's issue. We'll also publish immediately online and promote across all our platforms. The Grand Meridian is going to face consequences for this." Marcus checked into a different Charleston hotel, where he was welcomed professionally and without incident. He spent the evening writing his review. Unlike his typical reviews that assessed amenities, service, dining, and overall experience, this review focused entirely on discrimination and what it revealed about the Grand Meridian's values and practices. The review ran under the headline, "The Grand Meridian Charleston, where Southern hospitality doesn't extend to black guests." Marcus's review was devastating and meticulously documented. He described arriving with a valid prepaid reservation, being told it didn't exist, having his financial capability questioned, being told he wasn't the right fit for the property, and ultimately being refused service until he revealed his identity as a travel critic. He contrasted this with Catherine Reed's immediate reversal once she realized he could damage the hotel's reputation. The review included direct quotes from Catherine about guest suitability and maintaining standards. It noted that her concerns about the reservation vanished instantly when confronted with Marcus's professional credentials, proving the reservation existed all along, and her refusal was based on bias rather than legitimate operational issues. Marcus also researched the Grand Meridian's history and found concerning patterns. Online reviews from black travelers described similar experiences of being told rooms weren't available despite online booking confirmations, being given inferior rooms compared to what they'd reserved, or facing hostility from staff. White travelers consistently reported excellent service and warm welcomes. The pattern suggested systematic discrimination, not just one manager's bias. Marcus concluded his review. The Grand Meridian Charleston occupies a beautiful historic building and markets itself as embodying Southern hospitality and luxury. What I experienced was neither hospitable nor luxurious. It was discrimination, pure and simple. A front desk manager saw a black guest and decided he didn't belong, inventing excuses to refuse service despite valid payment and reservation. Only when confronted with the reality that the guest she was discriminating against had the platform to expose her conduct did she suddenly find the reservation that had supposedly never existed. The Grand Meridian can advertise elegance and prestige, but discrimination is never elegant and bigotry is never prestigious. Until the Grand Meridian demonstrates genuine commitment to welcoming all guests with equal dignity, I cannot recommend this property to any traveler who believes hospitality should be colorblind. 0 stars. The review went viral within hours of online publication. It was shared across social media platforms, picked up by national news outlets, and sparked widespread conversation about discrimination in luxury hospitality. Other black travelers shared their own stories of discrimination at high-end hotels, creating a broader discussion about racism in the travel industry. The Grand Meridian attempted damage control. The hotel's ownership group issued a statement claiming Catherine Reed's actions didn't reflect company values, that she'd been disciplined, and that the property was committed to serving all guests equally. But the damage was done. Travelers began canceling reservations, citing Marcus's review and unwillingness to support a discriminatory property. Travel bloggers and influencers announced they would no longer feature the Grand Meridian in their content. Corporate clients moved conferences and events to other Charleston hotels. The financial impact was severe and immediate. Within 2 months, the Grand Meridian's occupancy rate had dropped from 92% to 47%. Revenue collapsed. The property's reputation, built over decades, was destroyed by one incident of discrimination that confirmed what many black travelers had experienced but couldn't amplify as effectively as Marcus could with his platform. Catherine Reed was terminated from her position, but the incident had revealed broader cultural problems at the property. Several employees came forward after her firing to describe how management had informally trained staff to be more vigilant with black guests, to verify their reservations more carefully, and to steer them toward less desirable rooms. These practices, while never written down as policy, had been normalized through management example and implicit expectations. 6 months after Marcus's review, the Grand Meridian was sold to a different hospitality company at a significant loss. The new ownership completely restructured operations, terminated senior management, including the general manager, who'd overseen the culture that enabled Catherine Reed's discrimination, and implemented mandatory anti-discrimination training for all staff. The new ownership also reached out to Marcus and invited him to visit the property again to evaluate the changes. Marcus declined initially, explaining that reviewing the same property twice risked appearing like advertising rather than journalism. But a year after his initial refused check-in, he did return to the Grand Meridian under the new ownership. His second review acknowledged the changes: new management, diverse staff, explicit anti-discrimination policies, and several black guests he observed checking in, who received the same warm welcome as white guests. The property had been transformed, though Marcus noted the transformation had only occurred after discrimination destroyed its previous reputation and forced a change in ownership. Catherine Reed struggled to find work in hospitality after her termination from the Grand Meridian. Her role in a viral discrimination incident made her unemployable in luxury hotels. She eventually left the hospitality industry entirely. 5 years after the incident, Marcus was invited to speak at a hospitality industry conference about discrimination in luxury travel. He shared his experience at the Grand Meridian and the broader implications. When Catherine Reed saw me walk into the Grand Meridian, she made instant assumptions. She saw a young black man in casual travel clothes and decided I couldn't afford her hotel, didn't belong in her lobby, and needed to be sent away. She invented problems with my reservation that vanished instantly when she learned I was a travel critic. Her discrimination wasn't based on anything I did. It was based on who she assumed I was, because of my race. Marcus continued, but here's what's important. I had a platform. I write for a publication with millions of readers. I could expose what happened and create consequences. Most black travelers who experience hotel discrimination don't have that platform. They get refused service, given inferior rooms, or treated with hostility, and they have limited recourse. They might post a negative review that gets buried among hundreds of reviews. They might file a complaint that goes nowhere. Mostly they just don't return to that property, and they tell friends to avoid it. The Grand Meridian lost 60% of its value and had to be sold because one discrimination incident got amplified by someone with reach. But how many hotels practice subtle discrimination against black guests and face no consequences because those guests don't have platforms to expose it? That's the bigger question the industry needs to address. Marcus's speech prompted several major hotel chains to review their anti-discrimination policies and training programs. Some implemented secret shopper programs, using diverse testers to ensure consistent service quality regardless of guest race. 10 years after the incident, Marcus had been promoted to executive editor at Luxury Travel Digest, overseeing all travel content. He continued to write occasional reviews and remained the publication's most influential voice. The Grand Meridian Charleston, under its new ownership and management, had rebuilt its reputation and become known as one of Charleston's most explicitly inclusive luxury properties. They featured diverse staff, participated in community events celebrating black history and culture, and trained employees extensively on recognizing and preventing discrimination. The transformation was real and lasting, though it had only occurred after discrimination destroyed the previous business. Marcus reflected on this in an article marking the 10th anniversary of his refused check-in. The Grand Meridian became a better hotel only after discrimination forced it to change ownership and rebuild from the ground up. That's an expensive lesson. The smarter approach is for hotels to build inclusive cultures from the beginning, to train staff to welcome all guests equally, and to create accountability systems that identify and address discrimination before it goes viral and destroys your business. Catherine Reed discriminated against me thinking I was just another guest she could dismiss. She didn't know I was a travel critic with the platform to expose her conduct to millions of readers. Her discrimination cost her job, cost her hotel its reputation and ownership, and became a case study in how bigotry destroys hospitality businesses.
The story became legendary in travel journalism and hospitality management. The front desk manager who refused check-in to a luxury travel critic, sparking a review that destroyed her hotel's reputation and forced its sale. It was taught in hotel management programs as an example of how discrimination violated both ethical standards and business interests. And throughout the luxury hospitality industry, front desk managers learned a simple lesson that should have been obvious all along. Treat every guest with respect and dignity, not because you fear they might be influential critics, but because hospitality by definition means welcoming people. Catherine Reed had seen a black man and decided he didn't belong in her luxury hotel. That man happened to have the power to tell 3 million readers about her discrimination. The consequence was complete destruction of everything the Grand Meridian had built over decades. That was the cost of discrimination in hospitality, not just violating civil rights and harming individual guests, but potentially obliterating a property's reputation and value when the person discriminated against had the platform to ensure the world knew exactly what happened.
Thank you very much for listening. Please let us know what you think of this story in the comments. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any other videos.